I used to be in a band for a long time, and Pat Brown, talented musician, also has played in a number of bands. Well, today we're also in a group, but that group is called AOPA, and we're going to talk about it. Rest easy. This isn't a commercial. This is just the two of us enthusiastically and genuinely telling you why we're glad we're AOPA members. Pat Brown, I don't know if I have ever mentioned this to you in our long and lustrous friendship, but I'm actually a lifetime member of the Seaplane Pilots Association because I really like seaplanes and
Yeah.
I like flying them. I'm a lifetime member of the EAA because I am an A&P. I like building stuff, but I'm also a member of this organization. Have you ever heard of these folks? I think they're kind of cool. And more importantly, I think they're actually really important to the future of general aviation.
Yeah, I vaguely remember hearing those initials starting back in the late 60s when I first started to fly. And like you, I'm a member of the Seaplane Pilots Association because there's nothing cooler than landing on water. I'm also a lifetime member of EAA because I think it's a wonderful organization and excellent to support. I'm also a lifetime member of AOPA. They have made a tremendous difference over the years in our rights and privileges as pilots. And, in full disclaimer, I mean, I think we owe this to our viewers. You and I both work for AOPA.
I,
But
I actually work for the AOPA Foundation, which means your membership dollars do not come to me or anything I do. It's separate, but my membership dollars go in there too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, technically, I work for the foundation as well. So, yeah, membership dollars don't, the $89 that we pay every year. Well, I mean, because we're lifetime members, we don't have to do that. But that $89 that most people pay per year does not go to pay for what we do. That's all a donation money. But nonetheless, um, I think we owe it to the viewers to you know to
It's
to
honest.
disclose that up front, and then you can kind of take what we say with a grain of salt if you so desire. But
Well, and I will tell you, because I love to interrupt you, I actually joined out of cowardice, and I'm not at all ashamed of that. For many years, because I write, I've been writing about aviation for years, and I didn't belong to any of the organizations because I didn't want to show any bias. I didn't want anybody to say, "Oh, he's saying that because he belongs, or he's a member, or he knows the president." And then I wrote for Dr. Gleim, the Gleim Publishing, the Red Books.
right.
I was an editor for them for years, and really enjoyed it, but it was kind of like Dr. Gleim would like you to join AOPA. And I have an enormous amount of respect for Dr. Gleim. He's gone now, but he was brilliant.
Yeah.
And you get into a conversation with somebody and it's an acronym. I don't even know what that means. The amount of work AOPA does on the behalf of general aviators like myself is way more than I ever imagined before I went to work there. I have
Yeah.
been astounded by how much they cover. And, I actually think the return on investment for members is incredible because nobody else in the world has general aviation like we do.
Yeah, and so much of it, Jamie, is behind the scenes. It's things that the members don't see because it's not something tangible that they can actually grab a hold and put a finger on. But the ramifications of not doing those things could be tremendous. Uh, in previous videos, we've talked about social media and things that we see on social media. And frequently, there's rented lips here. Frequently, I'll see somebody that's maybe a fairly new pilot, and they'll post in one of the groups thinking about joining AOPA. What does the hive think about that?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll invariably there'll be a lot of folks that say, look, it's worth the money. It's you're supporting the organization that supports what we do, but inevitably you also get AOPA doesn't do anything for me. They've been worthless for years, and people just don't realize all of the things that AOPA does that protects their rights and privileges to fly. If we go back, we could go back years and years and years, but let's just talk about 9/11. I'm sure that some of those watching us today were alive and probably flying during 9/11. I certainly was.
Oh
Well,
yeah, and
the
it all
airspace,
stopped
it
all
was
at
shut
once.
down, and it was shut down for weeks. And then the FAA came up with this enhanced class Bravo airspace and some other craziness. And one of AOPA staff members actually was able to get into the FAA's offices and literally live there for several weeks, giving AOPA some incredible insights as to what was going on back in the day. That enabled us to be kind of ahead of some things and be incredibly effective in advocating for general aviation getting back in the air. So if nothing else, 9/11 proved the value of AOPA. Not
Well,
to
and
mention,
not to interrupt, but I do that apparently.
you do it all the time, but that's all
I,
right.
I didn't realize before I became a member that for the price of an hour or two of the CFI every year, I opened the door to resources I had no idea were available to me. So if I have a medical question, they have professionals that'll talk to me because
Yeah,
I'm a member. If I have maintenance questions, there are people there who are AMPs and IAs who will talk to me. They have CFIs on staff. They have people for finance. Anything you could want. Even I have a problem at my airport. My airport director is telling me I can't do something that I think I'm allowed to do. There are people who are there who will talk to you. And you and I have both helped with the process of starting flying clubs around the country. They're coming up on 300 of them now that have formed with people who had no idea how to do that before.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
had I known there are essentially consultants that are already paid by my dues and I can talk to them about anything I want and they'll answer the phone, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, when you're a member, you can call and you can ask for the Pilot Information Center, the PIC, and you'll be connected to subject matter experts. Oftentimes, these people know the answer to the question just off the top of their heads. But if they don't, they know where to find the answers and they are diligent in finding those answers. If you have a slightly higher level of membership, you have legal protection that's available to you, a limited amount, but nonetheless a legal protection if you should get in hot water with some entity and you need some help, or if it's just as much as help looking at a contract or some sort of an operational guide for a flying club, for example. These services are available, and literally at just to dial a telephone number. We've got basic med that you know
Oh, wouldn't
that
exist without AOPA. No
it
doubt.
would
Basic Med
no
would not exist without AOPA.
that was a project that was in the works for some 30 years, and it got done, and it's been phenomenally successful. There are something like 80,000 pilots now flying under basic med, something like
More
that.
than 10% of the pilot population.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mosaic. This is the light sport thing that was included in the 2024 FAA reauthorization bill that was signed in November of 2024. Um, we don't know exactly when that rule is going to be finalized, but I'm hearing rumbles about August of 2025. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we're hearing rumbles that the stall speed may be 58 knots. We don't know exactly, but once again, AOPA was right in the thick of that fight. I remember several years ago, one of the congressmen out of Pennsylvania introduced legislation to privatize ATC, not FAA, but ATC. And it was going to be something like a 13-member board, which was made up mostly. I'm trying to remember because some of this is
Yeah,
this
there
is
was
now
no
probably.
GA representation on that
Well, there
board.
was. I think there was two seats that could
Okay.
loosely be called general aviation, but I think it was the Secretary of Transportation was going to be the chairman of that, and most of the representation was airlines and airline builders and things like that, and airport managers from big airports. So, what do you think would happen? Well, AOPA was absolutely key in beating that back, and in virtually every budget that every president since Reagan, with I think the exception of a couple of years, maybe under the Obama administration, I've forgotten some of the details here, but virtually every president in both parties has included user fees in the budgets of the the annual budgets. AOPA has been able to keep those user fees at bay. And folks, if ATC is privatized, if we have user fees, that's the end of general aviation in the United States as we know it. I guarantee you. Just look at Europe, and AOPA is right in the middle of all of that kind of stuff. And of course,
Well,
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, you mentioned the airlines, and it comes as no shock to anybody. Those are enormous companies with huge valuations. They hire lobbyists to protect them in governmental
Yeah.
circles. I hire AOPA, and I benefited from AOPA before I even knew what it was, and I certainly have in the time I've been a member, and I'll still benefit after my employment is over and I remain a member. That's the thing we often don't think of, because we think of ourselves as an individual, and maybe with a few folks down at the airport, our local pilots association or something. There's over 700,000 of us. And
Yeah.
if we speak with one voice through a lobbying organization, something like Darren Pleasance was just up on the Hill just recently talking about the privatization issue and a variety of other things. You and I can't do that, Pat. The people at the local airport can't do that. But representatives from AOPA deal with senators and congressmen and administrations at state and federal level all the time to make sure some state doesn't pass a law saying, well, you can't fly here at that time, or what. No, this is federal airspace. We all do that, but if we band together, we're powerful. Individually, we're not. And I think some guy named Lincoln said something about that once.
Yeah, we have regional managers all over the country that keep tabs on the state level um, legislation as well, and are able to oftentimes kind of steer that in a way that benefits general aviation, or at least in many cases stop it from hurting us. So it's not just at the national level lobbying Congress and the Senate. It's at the state level too. There are several. I think we have seven. I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember the number of regions, but we have several folks, and that's their only job is to kind of monitor what's happening at the state level, and the airport support network of individuals like people that are watching this show um, can band together and kind of be our eyes and ears on the ground. You know, we're not successful all the time, and AOPA isn't a perfect organization, but I'm telling you something, for $89 a year, and you talk about being able to amplify your voice for $89 a year and have a clout that you couldn't have as an individual. When AOPA calls to its members for a call to action, when they say a call to action, they're asking the members to write their congressman or their senators about a certain issue. And again, that call to action was directly responsible for killing that privatization bill that could have done so much damage to general aviation. So, to those people that say, "Well, AOPA doesn't do anything for me," um, I would politely say, balderdash. You may not see it on a daily basis, but you would miss your rights and privileges if AOPA wasn't there fighting for you, whether you're a member or not, every single day.
I'm with you 100%, man. And seriously, I've met so many great people in AOPA and through AOPA, going to some of the big events and everything. It's just been a great treat. So I'm locked in, no doubt about it. And I know you are too.
Yeah, let me mention just a couple of other quick things, so because I know we want to wrap this thing up. It's going long, but the Air Safety Institute, which has all kinds of safety videos and tips and things like that, does the early analysis of accidents and such. So the Air Safety Institute is out there with incredible resources and incredibly talented people that work there. The Rusty Pilot program that has been so successful now for about 10 years is something that is funded by donations, not by membership dues. Back to Your Roots, the seminar that we recently released, getting airline pilots and people that generally fly the big stuff at the flight levels, getting back involved in general aviation. None of that stuff would be there if it weren't for AOPA. And one last thing before we wrap it up. We're giving away $2.5 million this year in scholarships to kids and others that want to learn how to fly or advance their ratings or so on and so forth. This is 2.5 million dollars to over 400 scholarship recipients. This past year, we gave away well over $1 million to about 245 of these same kids and some teachers and things like that. And again, this is all donor money. This has nothing to do with the $89 that you spend every year, but it's that $89 that helps us to do all of these other things. In other words, protecting our individual rights and privileges as pilots. So if I sound passionate about AOPA, it is. I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I will stand up and tilt against windmills until the cows come home, because I do believe in the organization.
I think you convinced me, Pat. Thanks. No, I appreciate talking about it. It's one of those subjects that weighs on my mind, and I have to make that, like you, I have to make that distinction. Yeah, I'm an employee, but I was a member long before I was an employee, and I really do see the value. So thanks for talking about it. I hope this informed folks. I'm not trying to twist your arm, but just so you know, they actually are doing things that matter in all of our lives. So Pat, I'll see you back here next week, and we'll talk about something else that will undoubtedly rile somebody up.
Adios, buddy.